working as well. So welcome everybody to week 3. I'll just introduce Katie again in case we've got anyone in here that has not met Katie before. So Katie has come on board with Vitality this time. Katie is an exercise physiologist, and she has been and is going to be continuing to help us with everything fitness as well, to help boost our vitality along. Did you want to have a quick chat again, Katie, just about who you are?
So, hi, I'm Katie. I've jumped on to kind of help supplement all the wonderful work that you'll be doing with your metabolic balance, and then obviously in turn metabolic vitality as well, and just kind of help to provide you guys with some strategies on how to best implement exercise with the program and it all not be too overwhelming. Today we're going to talk through a couple of exercises. I'll give you a little bit of an overview later, but yeah, if anyone's got any specific exercise requests or any questions, feel free to yell out. But yeah, I'll be in here every week, so if you've got any questions.
Amazing. So topics this week. So what I was going to do was, and Scott will be joining me in a second. He was a bit late home, so he's just getting himself all organized. This week I really wanted to, so I've noticed a lot of people asking me in clinic how to navigate through this Christmas period, the functions that are coming up, the celebrations and things like that. So I really wanted to go over how I do it and how I think that can work as well. Then we'll go over to Katie, who will then do the exercise component. And then if we've got any time at the end, I've got a few kind of question and sort of answers. If anyone's got any specific questions, put them into the chat because I'm happy to answer those. But some of the common kind of questions that I get asked quite often with metabolic balance, and I just thought I'd answer some of those if we have some time left over. So getting into this crazy Christmas period, and I don't know about everybody else, but it really seems like all of these Christmas celebrations are not only in abundance, everyone seems to have multiple of them, but they're starting so much earlier at the moment. I've had clients that have already had their Christmas functions, and then I actually have one client in this week between now and Christmas, and I think there's only, 5 weeks to Christmas? If that, 5 weeks, maybe less than 5 weeks. I think she said she had something like 12 functions to do in that time for Christmas. So she's obviously got a lot of navigating to do there. But really, this period coming up, it is always going to be challenging because there's always going to be functions around. And the one thing I'd like to stress is that with metabolic balance, it doesn't have to be perfect. I obviously want everyone to be mindful and think about their choices, but also the key is enjoy yourself first. So make sure you're having fun, enjoy those celebrations coming up to Christmas, but make the good choices with that. As I think I've mentioned multiple times, I do a weekly meal planner. Within that weekly meal planner, I also plan my functions. So Saturday morning is planning day. I will look ahead to the week and I will work out in that, and I will actually, so you can do that. I will actually put on my planner the days that I'm going to be out, the times I'm going to be out, and the type of functions that I'm going to be going to. And then I can kind of work out what my food choices are going to be with that. So this week for us up to now has been more of a challenging week. We had some friends that have come up from Sydney, and we have pretty much seen them breakfast, lunch and dinner for the last few days. Hey, Jackie. So what I've done is I've looked at where we're going. I've looked at the places we were going to. So one of the places, so they came over, they got in on Sunday. We cooked a roast at home so that I could still be true to what we were doing. We then went out with some other friends on Monday night. I was in charge of booking, so we ended up going to a steak restaurant. So I knew that I could again stick to the kind of foods that I want. And the reason I do that is because I know those foods make me feel good. So it's not to kind of go, I have to be strict, I have to be perfect. It's about what foods are going to make me feel good, especially the next day when I've still got to go to work.
And the steak restaurant, we shared
a steak. Yep.
Yeah.
So
I had some 300-gram steaks on the menu. So we just ordered 300-gram between us. Now we happen to like our steaks cooked a similar way, so that works. Obviously, if one of you want well done and the other one wants blue, that's a challenge. And what was kind of cool is they brought it out already sliced up for us. So it was kind of like this, for Karen and I anyway, a small sharing. But we got I think a salad and some greens or some and it worked awesome, didn't it? And cheaper. So it was actually quite economical as well.
So it was still kind of good to actually be able to stick to those. Now they jump onto a cruise. They're going on a cruise tomorrow. So tomorrow they will be gone. So I know the rest of the week, and we have nothing planned for the rest of the week, that I can still stick to my plan. But it is always written on a plan in front of me. The other thing that I recommend people do is if there are Christmas functions, there are celebrations coming up, and you've got quite a few of them in the week, have a look at where you're going and have a look at the menu and choose what you are going to have before you get there. Then when the menu comes, you don't need to look at it. So you're not going to get distracted by other things. You've already made that choice. And another recommendation is be the first to make that choice. Be the first person to order. Usually what I find is if there's a group of people, the first person orders, it tends to set the scene as to what everybody else orders as well. So most people will go with your choice. You're not going with theirs. So if there is sometimes there is this FOMO feeling, everyone else is having pasta or they're having something else and I'm just going to have chicken and vegetables or salmon and vegetables. Sometimes you change your mind because you're wanting what everyone else is having. Whereas if you're the first person to order, everyone else follows in with what you're doing as well. So that's just another little tip that you can do, is finding out. And then I also have a lot of people at this time of year that will actually send me menus as well. Like if they're really struggling with navigating and going, I've had people that message me going, Karen, I've got 3 functions this week. This is where I'm going. Help me make a choice. What's the best option that I can have? And I'm always happy to help with those sort of things. It also gives me good ideas of restaurants that I want to try as well. So more people send me, the more
have to share them. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Happy to share as well.
Yeah. So plug for Rich and Rare. That's where we went, Rich and Rare in West End. And that's where we were able to go and share the steak. And their sides were really, really awesome, weren't they?
And then the other point I want to make is that metabolic balance is a lifestyle change. So this is something I want everyone on this call to continue to do for the rest of your life. So it's okay to have times where you are going out and you're having, the guidelines of metabolic balance is when we're in that strict phase, we have 1 treat meal a week, we do all of this, but there's times that's not going to be the case. 2 treat meals a week, 3 treat meals a week, but treat yourself to good food that you're going to enjoy within those times. Eating with awareness. So be mindful of your eating, eat slowly, enjoy your food, listen to your signals of hunger as well. And it is also okay, as much as I am sure a lot of us have grown up and probably done it with our kids as well, you have to finish what's on your plate. You don't have to finish what's on your plate. There are certain restaurants that I have been to and the portion sizes are
massive,
absolutely huge. And I hate throwing food away. I hate food waste. It is one of my biggest bugbears. But when there's a plate there and I eat it and I'm full, it is okay to throw it in the bin. If you continue to eat it, you're kind of saying that your body's the bin that you're going to throw it into. So don't use your body as the bin. Eat to satiety. And satiety is when you're about 80% full. And the best way for me to describe that is that you're eating, you feel satisfied, you haven't got to undo the pants, and you haven't got to sit there in a food coma to let the food digest. You should be able to get up and go afterwards, but feel satisfied on the foods that you eat. If you hit that food coma or you have to undo the pants. You've eaten too much and the body can't digest the food that it's eaten. So just be mindful around that.
I super struggle with that though. So
You do?
and so yeah, what are the tips there? Because it's like it's festive and it's food and you're just eating and
Setting the intention before you go.
right, that does
So you've
help.
got to be mindful. So being mindful, having a plan going into it.
Yeah.
And I would say a lot of the time the plans go out of the window when maybe it's not just the food, it's the alcohol we're considering as well.
Yeah.
Never an issue for me. Most people know I don't drink, so it's not really an issue. So I can just sit there and enjoy it. But when the alcohol does come in, when that festive spirit comes in, inhibitions can go out, food choices can change. But you know what? It was one meal. It doesn't then mean that that's it, we're done.
Yeah.
It's then kind of going, okay, tomorrow's another day. You might feel a little bit terrible. You might not sleep as well. You might feel a bit dusty the next morning, but get up and get back on. Still keep moving forward.
Has anyone else got any tips as to what they might or have tried, even whilst on MB, that or not, to basically start to either listen to your body more or do a better job? Maybe you've come then out of the restaurant, because there's no better feeling coming out of the restaurant going, nailed it, I feel really good, and then you feel good in the morning. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, has anyone else got any little tricks that they might throw out there? No, silence. Right. Okay. So that's what we've got to do then. We've got to get together a list of these little things, because it is a real, sometimes a real challenge.
Yeah.
To get
I
that
will
right.
say, like you were saying, you feel better the next day.
Yeah.
I don't feel any different whether I eat what
Don't you? Yeah. No, I feel quite
now
different.
to when what I was eating before.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I find that even when I gave up smoking years ago, I didn't feel any different.
Yeah. Wow.
All the
Okay.
things they say, appetite comes back, all these things I didn't
Didn't. Yeah.
experience. So maybe
Yeah.
I'm just
No. So I definitely feel better for it the next
Do
morning.
you?
So that's when I recognize that
yeah.
I feel better in myself that way.
I
But
just
yeah,
gotta do it longer, maybe.
yeah, it's also but it's in that moment of, how, because some time ago, it was pre-MB, we became vegetarian, and that was actually quite a good way to regulate yourself. It's quite interesting turning up to a function as a vegetarian that your choices are limited. And so that was an interesting way. But after years of being vegetarian, you just go for the hot chips and the bready stuff.
It
And
wasn't really healthy.
so
Your first test of being vegetarian when we went out.
ate a sausage roll, so not so good. But then got better straight after that. But yeah.
But like with yourself, Jackie, you don't feel any different. That's how your body's reacting. That is absolutely fine. But it's just going the next day, remembering why you're doing Vitality, why you've got the plan, and then just going, you know what? It's okay. I had a good time. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was fun celebration.
Yeah, it's not about
Next
being
day's the next day.
100% on
Yeah.
the thingy, but I almost feel also a bit of a satisfaction of accomplishment that I can actually look back and go, actually, I just feel so much better that we were able to stick to plan and not necessarily plan, but just know that I ate what I should have eaten after years of knowing MB and those sorts of things, and then coming away going like that feels really good.
Yeah. So talking about alcohol around this period, making sure that you are drinking plenty of water. That is the absolute key. There is no, and again, I've some of the things I've heard is people coming in and going, but I only drink the good champagne, or I drink the expensive wine. Alcohol is alcohol. It is a chemical. No matter what alcohol it is, the body processes the chemical alcohol in exactly the same way. It's then what happens to that alcohol. So anything that's fermented, anything that has had sugars added to it, they're the ones that are harder for the body to process. So be mindful if you are drinking, if you start putting mixers in, if you put Coke into it, if you're drinking whiskeys, things like that, your body's going to struggle to actually process this a lot. A lot of the time as well, the effects of alcohol can wear off in the middle of the night. So a lot of people say, oh, fall asleep really great on alcohol, and then people find they're tossing and turning. And it's because the effect of alcohol is wearing off. And your body's then sort of kicking in and going, oh, what do? I can't kind of work this out. Match alcohol to water. For every glass of alcohol you have, you should have a glass of water within that as well. But really, the other thing I'd say is be your own boss with this. You don't have to drink to your peers as well. So just because everybody else is drinking, you control you. Don't allow everybody else. Like, I have sat at many a table and watched people going, oh, just fill your glass up. You just got to have one more. And it's okay to say no. I don't actually have to have one more. So just be in control.
That's pretty hard though. That's pretty hard, like especially if you're known to drink. So, you know, I guess, and the one thing I always come back is, like Jackie, I've never smoked. So, and yet I would never ask for a cigarette. Why does my brain work like that? That I would never even entertain a cigarette. And yeah, and Karen's the same with alcohol, that she just doesn't even entertain alcohol. One thing that worked for me, actually Rich and Rare was quite a good experiment, was two things. One, I announced that I wanted to drive. Obviously that makes you're pretty good. Obviously you can't, you know, it depends where you're at on that. But then also, even when I got there, I had in my own mind just said, I'm just going to have 2 glasses of wine throughout this whole meal. And that's it. And we went with pretty big drinkers. Yeah, they respected that pretty early on. Because I sort of said, hey, I'm driving, I'm limiting myself to 2. And then that was it. Game plan was set. And so that just made that whole, and it was a Christmas, Friendsmas sort of catch up thing that just worked. Yeah, felt great for it.
And the other thing to do as well, like if you do go out, and again, I'm definitely not telling anybody not to drink over this Christmas period. Like if you want to go out and have a celebration, go out and have a celebration, but obviously be mindful. And if you go in with that intention of I'm going to have a glass or I'm going to have 2 glasses, and you're going out with somebody that you trust, make them your accountability buddy as well. Get them on your side to help you make those right choices. They may also come along on the ride as well. Doesn't always work husband and wife though.
No, you would think it would work with Karen, but yeah, sometimes I can get a little bit agitated. Maybe she doesn't deliver it, package it to me nicely enough. Don't drink that. No, it's not like that. But yeah, it is. But certainly when Karen and I go out, because Karen doesn't drink, I'm a social drinker, I won't drink anything. So I need to be drinking with other people, and that's just me. That's just how I roll. But yeah, so it's just interesting understanding the things that work for me.
Yep.
You know, it's probably just thinking back. I sort of reflect back on what has worked for me, and then sort of say, oh, okay, that must be how I roll. So then I'll sort of do that again. You know, when I want to during this period of vitality. But yeah.
And what I would say is just other tips to kind of keep you on track over that period. So remember the metabolic balance guidelines. So remember to drink your water through the day. Start the day with a good breakfast. So make sure you're setting your day up for success as well. Getting out, having a bit of sunshine during the day, kind of lifting your spirits, making you feel good. When you actually feel good, you actually make better choices as well. If you go into an evening going, oh, I've had a really crap day, I need this, you're probably going to make more choices that reflect that. So you're probably going to drink more and things like that. If you're not going to eat, like if you know there's going to be limited food where you're going, eat before you go. So that you're actually satisfied, and then you don't make as many difficult choices when you're there. I don't like the word poor choices, because I don't think any choices are poor choices. The choice you make at the time.
Yeah, some choices are pretty poor.
And ask yourself why you've made those choices.
Yeah.
But really, this period, it's be mindful, but remember you've always got a plan to come back to, and that plan will continue to make you feel good. anybody, I've also got a guide to Christmas as well, which I will be loading up so that you've all got a bit of a guide to help with that. It's got some recipes on it, some very metabolically balanced recipes and things like that on it. So I will share that with everybody so that you've got that as well.
Cool.
Anybody got any questions on that?
Yep. Okay.
Amazing. Well, I will let Katie give her a couple of seconds to get herself all set up. I think she's got to do a bit of camera juggling.
Yeah, I'm just going to adjust it so you
And
can.
so are we. Karen and I are
exercise.
going to be going over to the carpet here and giving some of Katie's exercises a go real time. You can sit back and bask and laugh, perhaps at me trying to achieve these exercises, but we're going to give that a go. So we'll do the same, Katie, while you're doing that. I'm going to do a little bit of photography work.
And full disclosure, I have had a bad back, so
yeah.
I may be a bit limited in.
Right. Hopefully,
need to go down a little bit.
I need to go down a little bit. Oh, hang on. Do we?
No, it made me clean my living room. I
Yeah.
had to tidy.
Okay, well, some of them are back-friendly exercises, so if they hurt, Karen, give me a yell.
Yeah,
Good.
all right, let's give that a go. Okay,
Cool.
and we got to see Katie from afar.
The idea of today from me was to kind of give you guys a little bit of an insight into what the exercises and stretches I'm going to be recommending in the Vitality program will look like, and to show you a couple, and then to kind of talk you through, there's actually like 4 little subsections I'm going to have for the stretches. So the first is going to be your morning mobility. So the idea with this one is you wake up in the morning and we're working from laying down on our back, our tummy, our side in bed to standing. So we're kind of like peeling ourselves up to wake up for the morning. So we'll work through some exercises for that. Then I've got some desk mobility. So assuming that a lot of us will be sitting down at some point during the day for work, I've got a couple of exercises we can do to kind of break up those segments of sitting and kind of promote movement throughout our day. We've then got some of our major body movements. So we'll do an upper body and a lower body one, and then some ones that we can kind of work towards before bed. So same way we peeled ourselves up in the morning, we're kind of going to put ourselves back down to bed. So the idea will be to kind of have these exercises as little suggestions so you can break up your exercise throughout the day, like I was talking about last week. So first and foremost, we are waking up in the morning. So the idea is that we've been in bed. So if anyone that wants to follow wants to move in the direction of the floor, we're going to do our first one lying down. Get to lie on
Uh-oh, we've got a little dog.
Got a dog.
A little dog's coming.
Joining.
Okay, give me a yell if anyone can't see, but feel free to follow along with or without your camera. So the first one is lying down on our back. We're going to send our legs to one side, so both legs to one side, and we're just going to release our lower back. So
that feels great.
Honestly, I do. And moving our legs to either side, placing our hands just down on the side next to us. We're going to go 3 rotations to each side. So just moving through nice and slowly and doing some deep breaths at the same time.
We don't have a lot of room for this.
I know. Not because we're diagonal.
I know, I made everyone move out of the lounge room for me to do this. I've got my legs to one side, and I can also pop my arms out to either side if that gives you kind of a little bit of an extra stretch. You pop your arms out to each side and then rotate over. Kind of stretches out that upper body at the same time.
Does feel great.
Does feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to sleep well after this. The next one is lifting up. So this is a leg stretch. We're going to lift up one leg and pop it over our knee. So it looks something like this if I'm standing up at the same time. So kind of like the heel of our lifted leg over the knee of our stationary leg, and we're just going to kind of push our right knee down towards the ground. So we're kind of getting a little bit of a hip stretch there. The other way you can do this if you're not feeling a stretch is to grab that bottom leg and kind of pull it in towards you, and you'll get a little bit of a glute stretch there as well.
Feels good.
Yeah. And then what we'll do, generally for stretching, you want to do about 30 seconds for each movement, and or until you start to feel any pain or discomfort. And with stretching, you kind of want to use your breath. So every time you take a deep breath out, you can pull that stretch a little bit closer and kind of extend that stretch as far as you can without feeling like too uncomfortable. You can then swap over and try this one on the other leg. So I do these every morning when I'm laying in bed. Before I even get out of bed, I've done these stretches.
We're gonna make sure we can do this in bed, dear. Luckily we got a king size bed.
Yeah, probably don't try with both of you in the same bed. The next one, we can kind of peel ourselves up. We're going to do on our hands and knees. Now, this one you can do in the bed or you can do it on the floor. It's up to you. But when we're on our hands and knees, we're actually just moving our spine into a cat-cow position. So we kind of have our head up and then we're pointing and looking down and arching our back. So we're just stretching through that spine. And we'll try and do like 3 to 5 rotations of this one as well. Now, in this same position, you can take, if you can see my arms as well, you can take one of your arms, reach it out to the side, and then pull this one, thread the needle. So you pop your arm through that gap and send your shoulder towards the floor. You can bend that elbow and try to get your shoulder as close to the ground as you can. That should be a nice stretch as well. I have to do these ones before I do my gym workout. Wonderful. The next one, we're going to come to, I suppose, what we're going to call the edge of our bed. So I've got my chair here. I might just pop you up a tiny so you can see. This is just a leg one. So sitting on your chair, extending one leg out in front of you and reaching down to touch your toes. This one should feel all through the back of your legs, so you've got your hamstring and your calves. And if you want an extra little stretch, pull your toes towards you.
That feels good.
Yep.
Yeah, I love this one. I think this one's very tricky for me because I lack flexibility, so I can barely touch my toes, but I used to be very good at it. Beautiful. So that's kind of what we're going to call our morning stretching one. So working our way, peeling ourselves up off the bed and working our way to the edge of the bed, and then kind of,
try that.
I suppose, from here you can get up and start your day. A similar routine at nighttime, working our way back down. The only difference between the nighttime one that I'll often do, Karen, you touched on it last week, is that sleep visualization. So a lot of the time I will actually do these stretches while I listen to the sleep visualization. So it'll be talking through one while I'm doing these stretches, and towards the end I'm doing the deep breaths in line with the visualization after completing the exercises. So it only takes about 5 minutes, and most of those visualization exercises are about 8. So generally speaking, I'm able to kind of do both at the same time. Love to bundle things together if I can and try to be as efficient as possible. So I will often listen while I'm doing those exercises. The other ones I wanted to touch on that I will often put in the light strength workouts that you'll see in the Metabolic Vitality. I want to talk you through quickly a body weight squat and then an upper body exercise, which is our push-up. So our body weight squat, every exercise that I pop in the program will have a progression and a regression. So we'll start with the most regressed version of the exercise and we'll kind of build our way up. So the first version is what we call a sit to stand. So if you grab a chair or any kind of stable surface, a bench, a ledge, a chair, our sit to stand is starting in that seated position and we're honestly just bringing ourselves to a stand. So with our body weight movements, the idea is that we're keeping our knees and ankles at about hip width apart. We're putting weight through our heels and our balls of our feet evenly. So we don't want to be leaning back and we don't want to be going up onto our tippy toes. And the idea is when we stand up, we're breaking at our hips, our knees and our ankles to move back down. Now, when I say sit to stand, I don't necessarily mean plop down on the chair. I want us to lower ourselves to the chair, do a light tap, and then bring ourselves back up. So we can lower ourselves down, try not to fully deload and lean backwards. You want to keep your torso forward and then stand back up. So really trying to work ourselves towards that body weight squat. The regress version is obviously just to provide you with that extra view and something to kind of fall back on if we need. The next version is to kind of remove the chair and to complete our body weight squat. So I'll often hold my hands in front of me and just kind of prompt my torso to move forward during the movement, but also kind of so I have something to do with my hands. So breaking at my ankles, knees and hips, I'm just lowering myself down until I either can't go any further or can feel myself starting to shift backwards and then coming back up. So the main takeaway from this one is to break out at our ankles, knees and hips. So when I say break, you want to start in that straight position and all at the same time, those three joints are kind of moving into that lowering our body position. If we're kind of doing one and then the other, that's when we tend to see those issues and sometimes like back pain or difficulty with the movement afterwards. The next kind of progression of the movement. So we've done our sit to stand, we've done our body weight squat. We're going to move into our single leg one. So what we're going to start with is sitting down with two legs, lifting one leg and then standing up with the one. So we start going down with two, shifting to one and then a big stand up. Once we feel comfortable with that, we can obviously do a single leg one, but it's actually
brutal, Katie.
Yeah.
I need a better chair.
Yeah.
That's what we do. I need a better chair.
But yeah, going from two
chair?
down and then coming up with one can be quite challenging. So we just kind of start with that reverse movement and then kind of move into the.
I'm going to get a better chair.
You guys got your chair.
It's so much easier.
So much better. I think the couch is a bit low.
You get a tall chair.
Yeah.
That makes that exercise so much easier.
For reference, you don't want a low couch.
Yeah, don't use the couch. That was harder.
The next one we'll do is our push-up. So similar to how with the squat, we're breaking at the ankles, knees and hips. With our push-up, we're kind of breaking at the elbows and wrists at the same time. So we want to move our chest down. Now, a lot of us will have done a push-up before. My biggest error that I see when people are executing a push-up is their head and neck position. So often what will happen is, and I'm guilty of it too, people will kind of go and do their push-up and either their head will be like this to tap and get them closer, or they'll be looking up and have that arch in their back. So what we want is a straight line from our head all the way to our tailbone, and we want to push our chest down towards the bench and then pushing back up. So the regressed version of this is either on our knees with an incline or against a wall or a raised surface. So often I'll do it on the back of a chair.
Back of a chair.
So I'll kind of have my chair here, lower myself down and then push back up.
Oh, that's good.
I was going to say, be careful with those chairs.
Careful, you're going to have a good chair. It's a much better chair you've got, Katie.
Yeah, it's quite heavy.
Yeah.
I'll also often use the wall, and you can kind of slowly walk your hands down the wall. Well, I'm not too precious about hand marks on the wall, but if you are, Karen and Scott wouldn't. I don't want to mess up your lounge room. Don't try.
Mind you, if you crossed your legs like that, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so that's our knee variation. You can also obviously pop a pillow under your knees if it kind of is hurting, but generally it's pretty good. And then you slowly want to work your way down onto the ground.
Yeah.
Beautiful, Karen.
That's my two.
Yeah.
10 points for Karen. Watch, Scott will do it on his toes now.
Yeah, don't worry about that. No, I won't.
So I guess there are two biggest movements that I wanted to talk through that you'll probably see in the program. So most of our upper body exercises and our lower body exercises will incorporate some of the main takeaways from our push-up or our squat. So even when we're doing like med ball passes, we're moving to the side. So many of those movements will incorporate that same concept of breaking at the elbows and the wrists at the same time as with the hips, knees, and ankles. They kind of all work together to kind of complete most of our movements, and a lot of the time they're working at the same time or in asynchrony, so you're kind of isolating muscle groups. So it can be really important to kind of understand those movements as a base layer and then kind of progress as we go. So we've gone through our morning kind of stretching where we're peeling ourselves up, and then we moved into our nighttime where we're moving down back onto the bed, and then those two major muscle groups. The last thing I wanted to touch on was our desk mobility for when we're potentially completing activities or potentially completing movements to kind of break up our day. So with this one, similar to how we do in our morning and night routine, I like to think of it as a bit of a body scan. So we're working from our top all the way down, and I'll honestly complete these exercises almost subconsciously now when I'm sitting at my desk or doing kind of a meeting, or if I'm on a call, if I'm not got my video on. So I start with my neck and shoulders, and then I work my way all the way down to the toes. So a bit of a body scan, which can be really helpful from a mindfulness point of view, as well as obviously a movement point of view. So I start with a little bit of the neck side stretch. So a little bit of a pull to the side.
Can I sit down?
No, you're good. You can sit down. I'll do it standing.
Okay.
And then I'll do some circles, looking up and down. Honestly, I'm going to sleep like a baby.
I have to give you a report on the sleeping.
Next, I'll move to my shoulders. So I'll often do some shoulder rolls.
So Katie, on those neck stretches, my neck was crackling a lot.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
A lot of the time it is just little air pockets. So you'll kind of have like a little crack for the first couple movements. If you're getting a crack every time you do a movement, not super normal, but honestly, most of the time I do these stretches throughout the day, I'll have a little crack. It's kind of like when you crack your knuckles.
Yeah. It's more, it just feels like it's constantly just different, isn't it?
Yeah, end of the
We're
day.
aged Katie as well, though.
Doing it more. Yeah, good point. Good point.
The next one I would tend to do is a little bit of a spine one. So similar to what we were doing in the bed, I'll often twist. So I'll pop my opposite hand on the opposite knee and kind of turn myself on my chair. I know that most people generally do this one. I do it every time I sit on a chair, to be fair, which I'm sure is pretty common.
These are very similar to the exercises I've been doing before going to the golf driving range as well.
Yeah. A lot of the ones from a golf point of view as well. I know someone asked about it last week, so if anyone is watching or curious, I'll often do this one for golf and do the opposite hand to the opposite foot.
Oh, cool.
That's like the number one thing that I will prescribe in a warm-up, as well as a standing or both ways.
I'll just do it sitting down.
Yeah. A little bit of variation. The next one I will tend to do is that seated when one where I'm reaching for my toes, so like we did in the morning one, so that hamstring one. Similar to what we did in bed as well, popping the opposite foot onto our knee and then leaning forward will be that glute stretch, the same.
This is where I really struggle with.
Nice one.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty good.
If you can't get your knee up, you can extend that bottom leg and it kind of limits the stretch. So you work towards having that leg up, but you can kind of extend it and lean forward, and you should still get that stretch and through the opposite hamstring as well. And then I also like to do little wrist and ankle circles when I'm sitting at the desk. I get lots of cracks with these, so very normal, but doing those little wrist circles and ankle circles in both directions as well.
Cool.
Yeah. So they tend to be my go-tos. I will be putting more than just those ones in the programs, but I kind of just wanted everyone to see and work through a couple of the movements and kind of see what I mean when I say that exercise really can be very incidental during our day and can be completed in a case of 5 minutes, which is my favorite thing about it. In terms of just quickly before Karen jumps into the questions, in terms of our exercise adherence and logging exercise, I know that it can be very difficult, as with our diet at times, it can be difficult to kind of set that expectation and it not go away throughout the day. Obviously, other things come in, we get busy, and the day does honestly just slip away from you. So setting an intention to complete exercise during the day. So often if I'm sitting at the desk, my Apple Watch will notify me if I need to stand up during the day. It'll say it's time to stand up every hour. And when it does that, I tend to complete my mobility at my desk. So giving yourself those markers in your head, or even like Karen was saying before, talking to someone else about them to hold you accountable. At work, I previously have done, every time my little watch goes off, I get up and do it with the person that sits next to me. So a lot of the time, just having someone to do it with can be really motivating, as well as educating other people about it. So saying like, I'm going to do this, would you like to join me for it? Can be very helpful as well. With my exercise, when I do a session, a full exercise session, I'll often rate how difficult I find it. So I've got a little scale that I'll put in the one of the cards for this coming week, and it kind of gives you an outline of, it's called our rating of perceived exertion scale. So it's rating how difficult the session was. I find comparing previous sessions difficulty, when I have had a good week, a bad week, when I feel like I've really improved, can be a huge motivator for me. So if I look back and see that previously a session was an 8 out of 10 and I completed the exact same one today and it was a 6, I feel that real sense of accomplishment. And as an independent marker, it can be really, really helpful and definitely so motivating for you to kind of continue that exercise journey and to link those exercise achievements with the way that you're feeling. Because obviously a lot of the time exercise can be one of many things that are changing or being incorporated into your routine. So it's nice to know that it is the exercise that's kind of improving, and you're seeing those, even if they're little, seeing those improvements as you go. But yeah, I think that was probably the main takeaways for me.
Awesome.
Anyone's got any questions, feel free to shoot them my way.
Lovely. Thank you.
I think I'm going to set my intention that I'm going to do for a week. I'm going to do nighttime exercises, stretching, and morning stretching in particular, because that is the one thing that I am pretty slack on, is stretching. And I watched, I'm not sure anyone's ever or watched it. There was the documentary about the blue zones. And I loved that documentary, and it was specifically went to, I think it was in China or Japan, it was Okinawa, that the people were sitting on the floor. They didn't actually have chairs. They used to sit on the floor, and they would sit down and get up all the time. And they were so agile with their movements that, I decided that that's what I've got to do.
And honestly, it's so incidental, like even the sit to stand that I showed you, the amount of times you sit and stand in a day, but making that movement purposeful by trying to tap yourself down on the chair rather than kind of deload and immediately sink into the chair. Just those mindful little tiny adjustments that you can make to a movement where you're engaging those muscles can be so helpful throughout the day.
Cool.
No, that's awesome.
We're running long on time, so maybe
we'll do the Q&A next time. Has anybody got any questions they want answering tonight?
All good?
Amazing.
Oh, well, hopefully others will set a small intention to be able to do those little exercises throughout the day. I'm sure a lot of us are desk bound. Yeah. So, and none of those get you sweaty. So that's pretty cool. Thanks, Katie. That was really, really good.
Thanks everyone for listening.
And thank you everybody for being here, and those that will watch this afterwards. Thank you so much. Like I said, if anybody has any challenges coming up for this Christmas period, I will get that document loaded up for you with my guide, my healthy guide to Christmas. But if you've got challenges coming up, please let me know. I am more than happy to help.
Send through some of those menus.
Yep, send through any menus.
Cool. Yeah, get a win.
And if you find someone that has great food that fits within sort of the metabolic type guidelines, definitely send them through.
Super. All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Catherine. Kath, thanks, Lyndall. Thanks,
Katie.
Jackie. Thanks,
Thank you,
Katie.
Katie.
Karen, thanks.
Have an
Scott.
awesome evening.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.